Hey, what's going on, everybody? Here we are with another weekly vendor reset video for the division. We're going to start here, as usual, in the hub with the special equipment vendor for Phoenix credits. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to point out is this AUG A3 Para XS here. It's got 29% critical hit damage, it's actually pretty low. It has been confirmed that SMGs are going to have their passive abilities switched from critical hit damage back to critical hit chance, so SMGs are going to be viable once again. And I actually saw a video by Like Butter, just giving him a mention, that the AUG is actually a really good gun, especially if you stack firearms in at least in the new patch when he was testing it. So this one here has got Vicious, which is great for SMGs, get the extra critical hit chance, especially when you're above 2 segments of health, obviously. And also has Fierce in the third slot, which has a high electronics requirement, so that's good to have there for more critical hit chance, which you don't necessarily want to keep stacking critical hit chance, but either way, this is still not bad. And then personally, I would roll away Ferocious for either Deadly, Responsive, or there's one other talent that doesn't really come to head right now, but that's really good for SMGs to make this thing really good. Alright, next up in the same vendor, we also have a Military Scar H here. Has 161% headshot damage. It's a little low, but it's still pretty good. 59.1 thousand damage is actually pretty high for semi-automatic snipers. This one's got Prepared on it, which is a great talent for snipers. It's also got Adept, which personally I would roll away for Brutal to get more headshot damage, and it also has Ferocious in the third slot, so if you use this for PvE, which I would suggest, you'll get 10% extra damage against elites and named enemies. So one thing I've learned is obviously everybody has their preference on what gear sets they're going to be using, so I'm just going to scroll through these and show the stats on all the gear pieces, that way you guys can see whether or not you like them personally. Alright, so now moving on over here to the special blueprints vendor for Phoenix credits, we come down here, and really the only thing that stands out to me is this Firearms gloves blueprint. That way, if you're still looking to use Savage gloves, then this is a good chance to get those. You can keep rolling for different ones, hopefully that you get the talent that you want. Alright, so now we come up here in the base of operations to the advanced weaponry vendor. And the first thing here we have is a Navy MP5N. It has really high critical hit damage. I think 39% is the highest I've seen, so that could potentially be the max. Like I said before, that's going to be getting switched over to critical hit chance. I don't know what it's going to be getting scaled down to, or what the max critical hit chance is going to be on the SMGs, but I'm assuming the higher the critical hit damage, the higher the critical hit chance will be. That's just my assumption. Hopefully it turns out that way. This one's actually got a kind of a low base damage per I would say, but the MP5 is still a really good SMG even before 1.6 comes out. This one's got Vicious. Obviously having critical hit chance on SMGs is good, and then it also has Brutal, which I would personally suggest other talents in that slot, but seeing as how you also have Determined, which I would roll away for sure, you're going to want to keep that and then get rid of Determined for Responsive or something that will help out SMGs. Alright, so the next thing here is a military G36. I want to mention that last week I had a comment asking why I didn't show a G36. I actually had really good base damage and a decent talent on it to start. And I ended up making a pretty lengthy comment sending it back to the guys, so if you guys want to check that out for my reasoning as to why I don't like the G36. But the main reason is because the accuracy compared to the other assault rifles is actually really low. But this one here, it's got okay base damage, it is kind of on the low side, but 23% enemy armor damage is actually really high. It also has Brutal, which is a great talent for assault rifles. Unforgiving is a good PvP talent. And then it has Focused, which is like the guaranteed talent on G36s. So you could roll that away. Personally, I don't really like that talent too much, so I would roll it away for something like Destructive. Alright, still in the base of operations, we come here to the base weapons vendor here. And here we have a Model 700. 152% headshot damage is on the pretty low side for bolt actions, but it does have 111,000 base damage, which is pretty high. And it also comes with Prepared, which increases your damage by 15% more than 30 meters, which is great for snipers. Capable, I personally wouldn't suggest it. It's not the greatest talent. I guess some weapons like LMGs or something like that could benefit from it a decent amount, and even like semi-automatic snipers. But with the bolt actions, you're not going to have to worry about it because the rate of fire is low, and it also has the guaranteed talent of elevated, which is pretty good. So you can roll away capable for brutal to get more headshot damage. Alright, we are now at the gear vendor in the base of operations, and down here we have a prototype stamina mod with 262 stamina. It's actually really high. And this one doesn't have armor, but the reason I'm pointing this out is because I can't promise anything because I haven't been able to play the PTS to check anything out. I also haven't looked too much into the patch notes. But I know armor is going to be taken off of like gear pieces like chest piece, knee pads, stuff like that. It's not going to be a major stat that you can get anymore, so I don't know if that's going to affect mods or not, but if it does, then I would personally suggest this one. One of my things I was thinking about, because there's that new sniper that's going to be coming, I forgot the name of it, but it's basically the main portion of its damage is based on an explosion that it does after each shot. So it's probably going to be a good idea in this next patch to have at least a decent amount of exotic damage resilience to prevent being able to get one shot or just take a lot of damage from that sniper, because it is semi-automatic. But yeah, so this is a good stamina roll, and if armor ends up getting taken off of mods too, I don't know whether or not it will be, but just a heads up, then having exotic damage resilience in that slot instead is not a bad choice. Alright, we are now at the Dante's Run safe house here. Here we have a couple of things. First off, we have the Spec Ops backpack, which has the specialized talent, which is personally my favorite for the high-end backpacks. It adds 200% of your firearms and stamina to your skill power, so if you're not really a skill build, this will help you get that extra skill power or to make your first aid a little more effective in your other skills. And also we have a prototype performance mod with 4% turret damage, so if you're looking to do like a Firecrest build or anything like that, you can stack turret damage with like about 4 of these guys on your gear. Alright, so we're now here at the Kerman Station safe house, and here we have kind of a questionable kind of a thing to point out. We have a converted USC, which is like the variant of a UMP. It has 33% critical hit damage, 18.5 thousand base damage. It also comes with a Vicious, which is great for SMGs, Determined, you could roll away, and the guaranteed talent Ambusher, which is really not that good. Which actually, it might come into play a little more if people, in like Last Stand, people are using cover a lot more, then it could come in handy a bit, but not necessarily as good as other talents like Responsive and stuff like that. But the reason I'm pointing this out is because I haven't seen anything on this weapon as of after the during the PTS of the 1.6 to know whether or not this is actually going to be a good gun to use now. This one I'm not a big fan of because it has the 20 bullet mag instead of the 30. These guys do have a low rate of fire, but seeing as how the AUG with a rate of fire of 725 is actually a really good SMG because of its high base damage scaling off of Firearms, this one's got even higher, which will scale even more off of Firearms. So this could be a potential weapon to look at. So if you guys don't have one already and would like a decent one, this one isn't bad. It's got Vicious on it. Ambusher is going to be guaranteed. It would be great if it had a better second talent, but either way, check this one out. It's only 106 or 1.6 million base credits, so not too bad. Alright, so here we are at the Cavern safe house now. We're here, we have a pretty darn good prototype electronics mod here with high electronic stat on it, and it also has 256 armor. Now, I was saying before that I don't know whether or not armor is going to stay on mods, but I'm pretty sure it is going to be. So if you're looking to make a skill build but also have a little bit of lethality and be able to take some shots and not go down as easy, then this is a great mod to pick up. Alright, next up we are here at the Last Call safe house, and here we have an extended mag, which is actually pretty decent. It's got 95.5% magazine size, which is kind of on the low side, but it also has 4.5% reload speed, which is pretty good. Personally, I would suggest trying to get critical hit chance in that slot. And then it also has 5.3% rate of fire, which is the other stat that you really want to have on your extended mag, and that's actually a pretty high percentage roll for rate of fire. Alright, so we're here at the Ward safe house here, and here I have another questionable kind of a item here. We got the Spec Ops armor with the talent Rapid. Decrease the cooldown for healing skills by 15%. Now, I've never really dabbled into much other than the like go-to builds. I know I'm kind of boring, but I do plan on testing things out. I just never really had the time because I got a full-time job too. But thinking about that, with Reclaimer becoming basically a go-to support build for healing, I'm wondering if this would actually be a really good thing to have, especially with the fact that it's already got electronics rolled on it. It's got rapid, which helps your healing skills cooldowns. It's got health on it, which is actually going to get switched over to resist all. It's got exotic damage resilience on it. I know I said earlier in the video on one of the mods that having exotic damage resilience is going to be good for. Oh, the sniper's called the Historian, to help resist that explosive damage. And it's also already got 53% ammo capacity on it. So this is already a great roll because armor isn't going to matter. So you don't want to roll. You don't want to get rid of health or exotic damage resilience for armor, or unless you want to get rid of health because it's going to be resist all to something else. But whatever you want. But this is already almost like a perfectly rolled chess piece, in my opinion, to potentially mix up with the Reclaimer set. So definitely check this out if you plan on going that route. Alright, and in the same vendor, we also have a prototype performance mod here with 7% support station duration. So this is almost like, this vendor is almost completely revolved around the support station healing kind of build. So this one will increase the duration, that way you're getting more heals, and it lasts longer. Obviously, if you're in PvP, it could still get destroyed. So having, I don't know if you can get health on your support station, which I actually don't think there is one for. But either way, this is definitely a good pickup for anyone also going down that same route. Alright, we are now at the Firewall safe house. Here we have another specialized backpack. This one already coming with electronics on it and a major attribute of skill power, which you aren't going to need armor there anymore. It's got a minor attribute of 17% burn resistance, which you could roll away for the ammo capacity. And one thing I want to point out about this is obviously you usually want to use this if you're like focusing more on firearms and stamina. That way you can get some sort of skill power. But it could also potentially help with, I mean, just really jacking up your skill power. I don't know if they're gonna go back to it, but the Historian originally, its damage off the explosion was increased by your electronics being higher, or your skill power, whichever. So if that ends up actually going back with somewhat of a nerf to it at least, then this could actually really help stack up your electronics. Or if you're just doing any kind of skill build, having your electronics as high up as possible, this will definitely help you do that. Alright, the last safe house here, the Crypt. This one here, we got another AUG, which is actually not too great, but still pretty decent. So this one's got 32% critical hit damage, a little on the low side, 17.2k base damage is actually on the high side. This one, for talent-wise, it is primarily focused around electronics, although talented, you could probably get enough electronics to earn, even if you're focusing on firearms and stamina. So you're really only getting one good talent here, which is Adept, but it's also in the perfect spot because of the high electronics requirement, which increases your critical hit chance by 7.5% for 15 seconds after using a skill. So that talent coupled with an SMG is perfect. This one having pretty high base damage, like I said, and a little bit on the low side of critical hit damage, but it could still be good when it switches over to critical hit chance. But yeah, other than that, a decent pickup if you don't have one already. We're also going to move down here to an extended mag with 101.5% magazine size, which is pretty high. 3% critical hit chance is great, and 4% critical hit damage. Like I said before, you'd rather have rate of fire there instead of the critical hit damage, but it does have critical hit chance, which pairs obviously greatly with critical hit damage, so definitely a good pickup. Alright, we are now at the East 34th Street Dark Zone vendor here, and this one here has a nice tactical backpack that has Firearms as the main stat roll. It has specialized talent, which is great at, as I've said before. The major attribute is 7% critical hit damage and a minor of 52% ammo capacity. Obviously, armor is not going to be a thing, so having that critical hit damage could be very good, especially if you're running a firearms focus build with SMGs. Alright, next up at the East 31st Street Dark Zone entrance vendor, we have some Spec Ops gloves here with Savage, which is great. My personal favorite gloves. This one's got pistol damage, which personally I would roll away, 5% critical hit chance and 16% critical hit damage. It's also got electronics on it, so personally I wouldn't be using these because I'd have to roll away pistol damage or electronics, and I don't want either of those. Personally though, so if you're using an electronic build, I guess they could be used pretty well if you roll away the pistol damage for something like SMG or assault rifle or whatever primary weapon you might be using. Alright, we are now at the West 34th Street checkpoint here, and we have another prototype performance mod, this one with 6% first aid self-heal, which I believe to be the highest, so anyone, you know, looking to keep their first aid, very useful, especially in solo play when you got no other people to heal you. Definitely pick these up and throw some of them on your gear. Alright, at the West 39th Street vendor here we have another pair of Savage gloves. This one rolled with Firearms, which is my personal preference. This one's got LMG damage, critical hit damage, and health on kill. Probably roll away the health on kill for critical hit chance if you're using LMGs, or you could roll away the LMG damage for the critical hit chance and keep the health on kill, which could actually be quite helpful for surviving, especially in PvE, and actually partially somewhat in Last Stand, where there's going to be a lot of action going on. You're going to be getting a lot more kills more frequently than you do in the Dark Zone, so definitely something to look into for Last Stand. Alright, we are now at the West 46th Street checkpoint here, and we have another prototype performance mod with 2% pulse critical hit chance. I'm not too sure whether or not people still use this personally as a solo player. I stack first aid self-heal, but 2% pulse critical hit chance with 4 of those, you got 8%, which could actually end up being pretty good, but it's all down to personal preference. But either way, I believe 2% is the highest per pulse critical hit chance that you can get on performance mods, so definitely if you're looking for these, check it out. Alright, well that'll do it for another episode of our weekly vendor reset videos here, guys. I really appreciate all the feedback I've gotten on my last video. It's actually like my most popular video right now, and it really does mean a lot to me because it, you know, for me, I'm just growing, and to have that many views in that little amount of time, it helps out a lot. And obviously it helped to be probably the first, I think I was the first person to upload the weekly vendor reset video last week, so that's pretty awesome. It's like kind of a milestone, and I want to keep doing that each week if I can. It's kind of hard because I do work until 6 o'clock on Fridays, and sometimes I end up getting stuck there, like today, until 7, which is when the vendor resets for me on the East Coast. So it is a little hard to get there. I kind of gotta hope that I get home from work in time and then get these videos up as quickly as possible. So that's why you don't necessarily see as much quality in the video as much, but I do still get my point across. Obviously, all you're really looking forward to know is what the good buys are each week. So really appreciate the feedback, like I said in the last one. I hope I can get that again, and I appreciate the people who are sticking around to watch my videos over others. So thank you again, and see you next week.